So we've done a good job of holding the line on tuition, but the legislature appropriates money, and we want to make sure that's it. So those DOGE efforts have been going on now for several months, but we also understood state and local government, because people are coming to me wanting property tax relief, and I'm supportive of that. I think we need to do it, but that property tax revenue is local revenue. It's imposed by local governments, and it's used for local things. We're not getting property tax revenue at the state of Florida. I'll talk about, like, we maxed out our rainy day fund. So from the time I became governor till now, we've more than tripled the state's rainy day fund. You never know what's going to happen. You have a recession, all this other stuff. Florida's not going to be immune to that if that happens nationwide. And some people say, well, why do you put money in the rainy day, reduce property tax? That's not property tax revenue. The property tax revenue is going for local. So you have places where you've seen major bloat in the budgets. So we were just down in Broward County to announce an audit of the county government there, because they've had almost no population increase in the last 4 or 5 years, but they've had increase in property tax, 45% more they're taking in with this revenue. And I'm just thinking to myself, okay, well, it's not because of population growth. And so where is that money going? Where's the spending? So if you want to do property tax relief, part of what you have to do is identify the way that the areas that impose those taxes to begin with, those areas of government, how are they spending the money? So we wanted to lean in on applying these DOGE efforts to local governments. Now, I have some authority under the Constitution to request information. The CFO, and Blaze is now using this, has authority. Any entity that's receiving state funding can do audits. But we wanted to make sure that we had the ability to come in and actually do the real thorough inspections like they've done at the federal level. And so the legislature did include this year, at our request, authority to do the DOGing of local governments. And that's municipalities, counties, even entities within there. Like we were down there talking about, like, the Broward Sheriff's Department. Yeah, that's grist for the mill. So that has happened. And so I'm pleased to announce that today. But before we even got that, we sent information to a lot of to all the counties and the cities saying, hey, comply with what we're trying to do with DOGE, and many of them didn't. Some did, many of them didn't. And so we're now utilizing this new authority to roll out these DOGE efforts vis-a-vis city and county governments across the state of Florida. So this morning we announced Broward County would be the first county that would do, and this will be, starting at the end of July, you'll have the DOGE teams will show up to these areas, review data systems, review the physical premises, review the personnel records of county and cities, specifically ones that have kind of come under the microscope. So this is much different than me just sending a letter saying, hey, what did you spend that on? These are going to be real auditors that are going to be on the ground doing this. And again, we have the authority now to be able to access this information. And we are going to start with some of the jurisdictions. And so part of the reason we're here today, we were in Broward this morning to announce we are going to include in the first round of DOGE audits a thorough review of the practices of the city of Gainesville here in Alaska County. Over the last 5 years, taxpayers in Gainesville have watched as the city government has increased burdens on property owners, over $30 million in additional ad valorem tax collections, which represents an increase of almost 86% since 2020. This has been part of increased spending that has seen Gainesville's operating budget expand by over $90 million a year. So this is, if you just divide by the residents, much less property owners, $600 per resident in additional taxes that have been applied. And of course, what has the city done with the money? They have DEI, they have Green New Deal, they have things that, quite frankly, a lot of taxpayers don't want to pay more property taxes to be able to fund. And so the goal of this review is to identify these practices, seek justification for why you've seen the growth in the taxes. I know they just raised the tax the other day. I saw a report on that. And I'm just thinking to myself, we should be, it's one thing for the state of Florida to do what we've done, and we're proud of that. But if you're a Floridian, whether it's city or county government, taxpayers should be put first. Taxpayers should be respected. And that's what we're trying to do here. So we will work with our CFO, Blaise Ngolia, to conduct these visits. Blaise has already assured me that, that his team at the CFO's office is standing by and ready to work. And here's the thing. This is not optional cooperation. This has been passed by the Florida legislature, signed into law by me as governor. There's also constitutional authority that helps inform this, and the CFO also has authority to be able to inform this. And so we believe that taxpayers have wanted to see this done. This will then roll into our effort to be able to do the property tax relief on the ballot in 2026. And I think the reason is people who oppose property tax relief will say, well, we need schools and fire and police. Of course we do. But what about all this other spending that's not there? What about some of the, we were just down in Broward, and their county administrator makes almost $500,000 a year. Now look, so is that what you want as a taxpayer? So these things need scrutiny, and because I really believe you can do the things at the local level we all agree on, education, first responders, all that, and still be able to provide meaningful property tax relief, but not if the spending is not kept in check on these other items. So you're going to see that. I think it's going to be really, really instructive. I want to thank the folks that helped work with us to get this into law. Now, there are ramifications for noncompliance, and there's a variety of tools that we'll have at our disposal. And if we need to do that, we will do that. But I'm excited. We're going to be rolling out more jurisdictions over the next 2 weeks. So expect to see other cities and other counties from various parts of the state of Florida. I mean, we're down in Broward, like you're just doing, Broward, Southeast Florida. I mean, they acted like Southeast Florida, is like, like this Democrat area. Like, I won Miami-Dade and Palm Beach County, by the way, so it's not. Now, Broward is a bird of a different feather, but that's okay. It is what it is. So it's not. We're really looking at where have we received a lot of interest in examining who has not been fully compliant with the requests that have been made. But you will see counties in variety parts of the state. You'll see different political compositions. It's going to be, I think, an interesting but meaningful diversity across the state from both the county and municipal level. And it could also be other entities that are affiliated with a specific county. We mentioned Broward Sheriff's Department. That would be something that can obviously be looked at. So I'm excited to unleash our new Chief Financial Officer, Blaise Ngolia, on this. The thing about it is, so we had this vacancy because our past CFO got elected to Congress in the 1st District of Florida. And so, created this vacancy, and people are like, what about this? What about this guy? What about that? And the thing about it for me is, I want somebody in there that's going to fight for the people of the state, for taxpayers, for consumers. And I think that's what everybody wants for that. So how do you know someone's going to do that? For me, the way to know is to see do they have a record of actually doing that in the offices they've already held. Because if they've been in office and just been very passive and meek and not willing to get out there and run towards the fire, they're not all of a sudden going to grow a spine of steel in a new office and start really leading. That's just not the way it works. And so we've had different, on issue after issue, Blaise has fought for you and has delivered for you. Election integrity, all the stuff we've done in Florida to ban ballot harvesting, clean up the voter rolls, election crimes unit to prosecute illegal voting. Leading the nation and all that, he wrote every one of those bills and pushed them through the legislature. If you look at Second Amendment rights, he refused to buckle when they were restricting Second Amendment rights back before I became governor. He's always stood for Second Amendment. You look at illegal immigration, everything we've done, banning sanctuary cities, doing the things to hold the localities accountable, no IDs, all the stuff we've done to lead the nation there. Blaze was the one that was really pushing that. And then we had a skirmish with the Speaker of the House and some of the legislators earlier this year, about I wanted us doing immigration to help the Trump administration increase deportations. They rejected initially what I said, and they passed a bill that would have made Florida de facto sanctuary state. Blaze stood with you and stood against the Speaker of the House and other leaders to do the right thing. So, and then on fiscal, he's been a fiscal hawk for, even when he was just a businessman, not even elected. He was focusing on waste in local government in Hernando County. So that record is very, very strong. And then even, we just had the news last week about the redistricting maps that we did for Congress in 22 were upheld by the Florida Supreme Court. And people may not remember, we have big Republican majorities, but they passed a map that was a bad map. And I said, I'm going to veto it if you pass it, and they passed it, so I vetoed it. And then we ended up calling a special session, and then we have a much better map that was just approved as fully constitutional and compliant with the law. Blaze was the whole time standing for you and standing for what was right on that. So when I see that you have a record of actually doing what you said you're going to do, that is the most meaningful indicator to me. And I'm sorry, I watched these guys campaign, not only here but around the country. They all say the same things when they want your vote, especially in a Republican primary. But then once it comes time to get into office, the number of them who actually deliver on what they say is honestly in Republican few and far between, unfortunately. And so when you have somebody that's not only talk the talk but walk the walk and delivered results, that's the best indicator that you're going to see meaningful leadership and action in this new office. And so I think you're going to find in short order that he's a guy that's going to fight for you. He's a guy that really, really puts the taxpayers of this state and the consumers of this state first. And that's exactly what we need as a CFO. So the floor is yours, my man.